how do you implement authentication in an API gateway?
Okay, let's continue. So there are few more things we have to understand about API gateways is how to do the authentication and authorization over your APIs. Otherwise, anyone in the world would be able to access them, which we don't want, obviously. So we can do authentication with IAM as well for APIs, but this level of authentication would be only for internal applications. So if you have any other EC2 server which has to connect to your API gateway or has to do a call to your API gateway, then you can use IAM roles and policies to control the access. But this kind of authentication would be limited to the internal applications that we have in our AWS account. So for external users, you won't be able to use this, or you should not use this kind of authentication. For that, to control the external users, we basically have two options. So you can either use Cognito service, which is provided and managed by AWS. So you can create Cognito user pools in which you would be able to create users, manage their passwords. So we will have a separate session on AWS Cognito, but this is a service which is used to do user management basically. So you can manage your user, do their authentication, send them emails using Cognito to verify their identity. So Cognito can directly integrate with our API gateway, and we would be able to do authentication using the Cognito. And the third option is to create your own authentication server and do the authentication that way. So to understand this, the user has to connect to API gateway, but he needs some kind of authentication. So user will connect to our custom server which we have created for authentication, and it will provide it with the authentication token. Okay, so now when user is sending the request to API gateway, it will send the request with OAuth token to our API, and the token will be sent to a Lambda function. So you need to create a separate Lambda function to do this kind of authentication, and then that token will be forwarded to our authentication server, and we will validate that token with our auth server. So this kind of cycle you have to maintain, and this will require more effort from your side. So obviously it would be cheaper compared to the Cognito version we had. So and then you can connect to your backend once the authentication is complete. So three ways. Then let's move on to cache. So caches can be also created on your API gateways. So cache is a system, or it is a memory which can be used to do quick retrieval of your data. So let's say you have a data which a lot of users are accessing. So what you can do is store that data into your cache. So let's say you have created a server for movies. So currently there is a movie which has been just released and it is getting popular, and a lot of people are searching for that. So that will do a lot of backend call on our application and it will cost us more. So what you can do is create a cache on your API gateway and store the data into the cache. So it will do fast retrieval for data, and we don't have to send our calls to backend. But remember, doing caching is also costly, so it is only recommended to do caching on your production environment only. So creating a cache will also cost you more, so keep that in mind. So other than that, there are other features also. You can do canary deployment like we saw on the lambdas. So you can forward some of the data you have for your or some of the requests you are receiving from your clients to your development server, so you can test how the application is behaving with the new code, and then it will do a deployment to your production, the full deployment. So if you don't know what is canary deployment, you can go and check out my lambda function videos. There you would be able to understand what is canary. Then we also have usage plan for your API gateways. So to understand this, consider you have created a new kind of software and you want people to pay for it when they are requesting or doing your API calls. So what you can do is create a usage plan for your users, and you can limit the access also. So you can say that you would be only able to do 10 calls with the usage plan you have. So after that, the API gateway won't allow the user to connect to your backend. So usage plan can also be created using API gateways. So these are the kind of features which differentiate API gateways from load balancer. Otherwise, you might be thinking why we are not using load balancer directly, because you don't have feature like usage plan, caching, and all that available in your load balancer. And API gateways can also connect to load balancer. So that is one more architecture you usually have in your AWS. So yeah, that's it for this one. I'll create another videos in which we will see this authentication and the canary deployment. Have a good one. Peace.